Welcome back to Bavarian RC. In one of my last videos I showed you how to build a simple GoPro mount. Using the same GoPro mount, I also designed a GoPro Selfie stick installation for the flight test FT Bronco. If you don't know the FT Bronco, check the flight test website for more information. I'll add a link to the description below. All you need for the selfie stick mount is some plywood, a fiberglass tube, a carbon fiber tube, my simple GoPro mount, some screws, epoxy resin, micro balloons, and fiberglass fabric. For free plans, a detailed list of material and the link to the build video of the simple GoPro mount, check the description below. I'll show you how to install the selfie stick during the build of a new FT Bronco fuselage. You can also retrofit the selfie stick to an existing FT Bronco, but it will be easier for a new one. First, mark the center line on the lower deck of the fuselage. Then take the 11 by 10 mm fiberglass tube and cut two pieces with a length of 70 mm each. Use sanding paper to roughen the surface of the tubes. Mark the position of the tubes on the underside of the fuselage lower deck. Check the plan for the correct position. Slide both fiberglass tubes over the carbon fiber tube. Correctly position the fiberglass tubes and then secure them with tape. To ease the centering of the tubes, I recommend cutting 4 pieces of foam board, just leaving enough space in the middle for the carbon fiber tube. Now apply some hot glue to where the fiberglass tubes will be positioned. Be careful not to get any glue on the carbon fiber tube. Remove the tapes and pull out the tube. You need some foam board material to cut out 4 strips that serve as a support for the fiberglass tubes. Check the plan for the correct dimensions. Glue a strip to each side of the tubes. Now it's time to cut out the plan for the plywood piece. First, the base plate, then the 2 wings, and the 2 parts for the mounting base. Apply some double-sided tape to the back of the paper. First, let's cut out the 2 parts for the mounting base. Attach the plan to the 3.5 mm plywood. Drill the holes with a 2 mm drill. Now it's time for the jigsaw. Take a 3 by 12 mm panhead screw and screw it in and out once for each of the 4 holes. Then add some CA glue to harden the threads. The next part is the base plate. Attach the plan to the 2.5 mm plywood. Again, use a 2 mm drill to drill the holes. The wings are also made from 2.5 mm plywood. This time use a 3.5 mm drill. Take the 10 by 8 mm carbon fiber tube. The one I use has a sanded outer diameter, which allows it to fit perfectly into the 11 by 10 mm fiberglass tubes installed in the fuselage. Mark the length of 805 mm. And cut it carefully. For the next step, we need the two wings, the two parts of the mounting base, 4 screws, and some tape. Shorten the screws to a length of 8 mm. Add the tape to one side of each mounting base. It is used to double up the plywood before attaching the wings to simulate the thickness of the fiberglass laminate, which will be applied later. Screw the wings onto the mounting base so that the tape is between the two parts. Be careful, the mounting base is asymmetrical. Check the plan for the right orientation. Mark the position of the forward edge of the mounting base. It should be 55 mm from the tip of the fuselage lower deck. Also mark the position of the forward edge of the wings on the carbon fiber tube at 246 mm. Insert the carbon fiber tube and adjust the position of the tube and the wings with the markings you made before. The screws will still protrude a bit. Press them carefully into the foam board material so that the mounting base is resting flat against the surface. Press the wings onto the fuselage and firmly towards the carbon fiber tube. Then apply CA glue to fix the wings. The mounting base will be glued to the fuselage at a later stage. In the next step, we'll fix the base plate to the carbon fiber tube. Adjust the base plate to be perfectly horizontal by supporting it on both sides. A center mark on the plywood and the carbon fiber tube will help to position the part. Use a drop of CA glue in the back and front to fix the plate in position. Now you can remove the screws and take out the tube. If required, add more CA glue to the joints of the plywood pieces. The full strength of the joint will be achieved by applying a fiberglass laminate. I use 80 gram per square meter fiberglass fabric. You need one piece for the base plate. Cut it approximately 1 cm bigger in each dimension. The orientation of the filaments should be 45 degrees. For the wings you need one piece for the upper side and one for the underside. The orientation of the filaments should be again 45 degrees. Now it's time to mix the epoxy resin. You will need 2 yogurt pots or plastic cups, whatever you have. Epoxy resin is toxic, so be sure to wear protective gloves and follow the product safety instructions. Ensure a good ventilation of your room or use a protective mask. You will need about 30 grams of epoxy resin. Mix resin and hardener in the correct ratio according to the specs of your product. Carefully mix resin and hardener. Decant about 1/3 of the resin into the second pot. Add microballoons to this pot until the resin is thick enough. It should no longer drop from a stick. Apply it to the joint between the base plate and the carbon fiber tube to build a fillet. This will make it easier to apply the fiberglass fabric. Use a paintbrush to apply a thin layer of epoxy to the underside of the base plate and the carbon fiber tube. Be careful not to touch the thickened epoxy applied in the previous step. Place the fiberglass fabric on the base plate. Use the paintbrush to carefully work the resin into the fabric and remove any air bubbles. Now apply the resin to one side of the wings and the carbon fiber tube in between. You can see that I protected the carbon fiber tube behind the wings with some tape to avoid any resin getting on. It would hamper the fit in the fiberglass tubes. I add a short piece of carbon fiber filament at the joint between the wing and the tube. This is not absolutely necessary, but it helps to build a smooth transition between wing and tube, which will make it easier to apply the fabric. Now place the fiberglass fabric on the resin. Again, use the paintbrush to carefully work the resin into the fabric and remove any air bubbles. Do the same steps on the other side of the wings. Let the epoxy cure overnight. Cut the overlapping parts. I recommend wearing a protective mask to avoid breathing the dust. Sand the surface, but be careful not to go too deep into the laminate. Drill out the holes with a 3.5 mm drill for the wings and a 2 mm drill for the base plate. The selfie stick is now finished. For the next step, you'll need the selfie stick, the mounting base and the 4 screws. Screw the mounting base to the wings. Again, be careful to have the correct orientation of the mounting base. Insert the selfie stick into the tubes of the fuselage. Align the wings with the marks on the fuselage that you made earlier. If everything fits nicely, pull out the stick a bit and apply some hot glue to where the mounting base will be positioned. Slide the stick into the correct position, remove any excess glue and let it dry. Remove the screws and pull out the stick. In the next step, I will cut out the intermediate plate. It will be located between the base plate and the GoPro mount, to create some space for the strap that is holding the GoPro. Drill the holes with a 3.5 mm drill. You will need a specific nose cover when installing the selfie stick. It has a cutout for the stick and the wings. Build a normal FT Bronco nose cover, but before gluing on the last part, I recommend to add some clear packaging tape on the inside of the nose. It is easier to apply it without the last part attached. The tape should reach from the back of the nose to the front. Apply a second tape to cover the rest of the surface, overlapping in the middle with the first tape. Now go ahead and glue on the last part. As a last element of reinforcement, I will put some tape starting here and going all the way to the end. The nose cover typically takes a lot of the energy at landing. Adding the tape will make it last a lot longer. My FT Bronco has logged more than 125 flights and the nose cover is still fine. Now put the nose cover on. Take a soft pencil and mark the front of the tube. Insert the tube from the back and press it firmly against the inside of the nose cover. Hold the nose tightly. This will mark the position of the tube. Take a push rod and pierce the center through the foam board. Using this center mark, draw the position of the cutout on the outside. I recommend cutting a smaller circle first to check the position. Do a test fit to see if the position is okay. Then mark a circle with a diameter of 13 mm and cut the round part of the cutout. Again, do a test fit. Now insert the selfie stick from the front and mark the cutout for the wings. Making the cutout for the wings completes the modification of the FT Bronco nose cover. Now grab your selfie stick, the GoPro mount, the intermediate plate and 4 screws. With the GoPro so far in front of the center of gravity, you will need some counterweight installed on the back end of the carbon fiber tube. To determine the amount of weight, let's install the selfie stick with the GoPro on the FT Bronco. In order to insert the screws for attaching the wings, you will need to tilt the nose cover a bit. Then slide the nose cover back in its position. Be sure to have all of your electronics installed with the battery as far back as possible. Use some lead sheet to create the counterweight. The material I use has a thickness of 1 mm. Mark and cut a 50 by 150 mm strip. The typical weight should be around 100 gram. In my case, I need a bit more than 90 gram. If the weight is okay to achieve a proper CG, wind the lead around the carbon fiber tube. Cover the roll with tape. It should now slide nicely onto the tube. To keep it in position during flight, attach it with 2 strips of tape. Be careful with this step. Any movement or loss of the weight will dramatically change your CG and can lead to a crash. This brings us to the end of the selfie stick build. I also designed a rear-facing stick installation. A build video for this mount will follow soon. I will put a link in the description below as soon as the video is released. I hope you enjoyed this video. If yes, please give me a like, and if you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, be sure to click the subscribe button. Thanks for watching Bavarian RC.